The awakening. The vast expanse of space had always beckoned to humanity, a silent challenge that whispered of untold wonders and dangers lurking among the stars. For centuries, we gazed upward, dreaming of the day we would touch those distant lights. Little did we know that our first encounter with an alien civilization would shatter our perceptions of the universe and test the very limits of human resilience. Sarah Chen, a brilliant astrophysicist working at the SETI Institute, was the first to detect the anomaly. It was a typical Tuesday evening, the kind where the hum of computers and the soft glow of monitors created a cocoon of scientific inquiry. Sarah's eyes widened as she stared at the readout on her screen, her coffee forgotten and growing cold beside her. "This can't be right," she muttered, furiously checking and rechecking her calculations. But the numbers didn't lie. The signal was artificial, complex, and undeniably alien in origin. With trembling fingers, she reached for her phone to alert her superiors. Within hours, the news spread like wildfire across the globe. Governments scrambled to respond, scientists worked around the clock to decipher the message, and the general populace alternated between excitement and terror. The signal, as it turned out, was not just a greeting. It was a summons. 3 months after the initial contact, the skies above Earth's major cities lit up with the arrival of the CO. Their ships were massive, elegant structures that seemed to defy the laws of physics, hovering silently above the awestruck crowds below. The first transmission from the aliens was broadcast simultaneously across all communication channels, in perfect English and every other major language on Earth. "People of Earth," the melodious yet unsettling voice began, "we are the CO, guardians of the Galactic Order. We have watched your species for millennia, waiting for the day you would reach beyond your cradle. That day has come, and now you must take your place in the cosmic hierarchy. Bow before us, accept our guidance, and we shall elevate your species to heights you cannot imagine. Resist, and face annihilation." The ultimatum sent shockwaves through human society. World leaders convened emergency sessions, military forces were placed on high alert, and heated debates erupted in every corner of the globe. Some argued for immediate submission, citing the CO's obvious technological superiority. Others called for resistance, unwilling to sacrifice human autonomy and dignity. In the midst of this chaos, an unlikely hero emerged. Jack Harper, a former Marine turned high school history teacher, found himself thrust into the spotlight when a video of his impassioned speech to his students went viral. Standing before a classroom of terrified teenagers, Jack's words resonated with millions around the world. "Throughout human history," he said, his voice steady and resolute, "we have faced seemingly insurmountable odds. From the depths of ice ages to the horrors of world wars, humanity has always found a way to persevere, to adapt, and to triumph. The CO may have technology beyond our wildest dreams, but they underestimate the human spirit. We will not bow. We will not submit. We are the descendants of those who crossed oceans, who reached the poles, who walked on the moon. We are humanity, and we will face this challenge as we have faced every other, together, with courage and determination." Jack's words became a rallying cry for those who refused to accept the CO's terms. As tensions mounted and the deadline for Earth's answer approached, a global alliance began to form. Nations that had once been bitter enemies now found common ground in the face of an existential threat. Scientists, engineers, and military strategists from around the world pooled their knowledge and resources, working tirelessly to prepare for the conflict that seemed inevitable. Sarah Chen found herself at the forefront of this effort, leading a team of researchers dedicated to understanding CO technology. Their work was crucial, for if humanity stood any chance of survival, they would need every advantage they could get. As the final hours ticked away, Earth's response to the CO ultimatum was broadcast from the United Nations headquarters in New York. The Secretary General, flanked by world leaders and military commanders, delivered humanity's answer with unwavering resolve. "To the CO," she began, her voice echoing across the planet, "and into space, we, The people of Earth have heard your ultimatum. We have considered your offer of guidance and your threat of annihilation. Our answer is this: we choose freedom. We choose self-determination. We choose to stand on our own feet, to face the challenges of the universe on our terms. We reject your demand for submission and your claim of superiority. If you seek to destroy us for this choice, know that we will resist with every fiber of our being. We are humanity, and we will not go quietly into the night. The response was met with a deafening silence from the Cho ships. For several tense minutes, the world held its breath, waiting for the aliens' reaction. Then, without warning, the massive vessels began to move. They ascended higher into the atmosphere, their sleek forms disappearing into the clouds. For a brief moment, hope surged through the hearts of millions. Had the Ko reconsidered? Had humanity's defiance given them pause? The answer came swiftly and terribly. From the clouds emerged smaller craft, hundreds of them, descending upon Earth's cities with devastating energy weapons. The invasion had begun. As chaos erupted and the first battles of the war unfolded, Jack Harper found himself leading a group of civilians to safety. Sarah Chen worked furiously in her lab, searching for any weakness in the Ko's seemingly impenetrable defenses. And across the globe, ordinary people performed extraordinary acts of courage and sacrifice. The dawn of a new era had arrived, one that would test the limits of human ingenuity, resilience, and determination. The war for Earth's future had begun, and humanity would either rise to the challenge or perish in the attempt. But one thing was certain: they would face their fate on their feet, with their heads held high, embodying the indomitable spirit that had carried their species from the savannas of Africa to the threshold of the stars. As the first day of the invasion drew to a close, the people of Earth steeled themselves for the long and arduous fight ahead. The Ko may have brought war to their doorstep, but they would soon learn that humanity was far from defeated. The awakening had come, and with it, the resolve to defy the self-proclaimed gods of the cosmos or die trying. The invasion. The Ko invasion unfolded with a terrifying efficiency that caught even the most prepared human defenses off guard. Their ships, impervious to conventional weapons, rained destruction upon Earth's major cities and military installations. The skies, once a canvas of blue and white, now burned with the harsh purple glow of alien energy weapons and the orange flames of human civilization under siege. In the chaos of those first few days, Jack Harper found himself thrust into a leadership role he never anticipated. His military training and natural charisma made him a rallying point for survivors in the ruins of Chicago. As he led a group of civilians through the crumbling streets, dodging Ko patrols and scavenging for supplies, Jack couldn't help but think of the history lessons he once taught. This must be how the resistance fighters felt during World War II. He muttered to himself, helping an elderly woman over a pile of rubble. Outgunned, outmanned, but never outmatched in spirit. Meanwhile, in a hastily converted underground bunker that once housed a particle accelerator, Sarah Chen and her team worked tirelessly to unravel the secrets of Ko technology. The few pieces of alien equipment they had managed to salvage were like puzzles from another dimension, defying all known laws of physics. "It's like they're operating on a completely different set of rules," Sarah explained to the military liaison assigned to her team. "Their energy weapons, their propulsion systems, it's all based on principles we've barely begun to theorize about." But as the days turned into weeks, something unexpected began to happen. Humanity, faced with the greatest threat in its history, started to adapt with astonishing speed. The same ingenuity that had taken our species from stone tools to spaceflight in the blink of cosmic time was now being applied to the art of resistance and survival. In Australia, Aboriginal trackers used their ancient skills to help guerrilla fighters ambush Ko patrols in the outback. In the forests of Siberia, Russian special forces employed tactics honed over centuries of warfare to harry the alien invaders. And in the sprawling favelas of Rio de Janeiro, street kids turned urban warfare into a deadly game of cat and mouse, luring co-soldiers into narrow alleys where their advanced weapons were more hindrance than help. It was in the heart of Silicon Valley, however, that the first real breakthrough came. A team of hackers and software engineers, led by an eccentric billionaire named Zack Ryder, managed to crack the encryption on the Co's communication network. "It's like they never expected anyone to even try," Zack exclaimed, his eyes wild with excitement and lack of sleep. "Their cybersecurity is incredible, don't get me wrong. But it's all based on quantum encryption. They didn't account for good old-fashioned human lateral thinking." The information gleaned from the Co network was a goldmine. It revealed the locations of their primary bases, the patterns of their patrol ships, and most importantly, hinted at a potential weakness in their seemingly impenetrable energy shields. This intelligence made its way to Sarah Chen's team, who correlated it with their own findings. After days of feverish work and countless simulations, Sarah burst into the command center of the human resistance, her face flushed with triumph. "We've found it," she announced to the room full of military leaders and scientists. "The Co-shields operate on a frequency that's out of phase with our universe. That's why our weapons can't touch them. But if we can generate a precise electromagnetic pulse at just the right frequency, we can disrupt their shields for a few crucial seconds." The news spread like wildfire through the resistance networks. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had a fighting chance, but translating this theoretical advantage into a practical weapon would require resources and coordination on a global scale. Jack Harper, who had by now become a key figure in the North American resistance, was tasked with leading a dangerous mission to capture a Co-weapons facility. The alien technology there would be crucial for developing the EMP device Sarah had proposed. As Jack and his team prepared for the assault, he addressed the volunteers who had stepped forward for this suicide mission. "I won't lie to you," he said, his voice grave but determined. "Many of us won't make it back. But what we do today could turn the tide of this war. We're not just fighting for ourselves, but for every human being on this planet, and for all the generations yet to come." The attack on the Kyo facility was a testament to human courage and ingenuity. Using a combination of guerrilla tactics, improvised weapons, and sheer audacity, Jack's team managed to breach the perimeter. The fighting was fierce and the losses heavy, but in the end, they secured the alien weapons and data cores they had come for. As the survivors regrouped and tended to their wounded, Jack allowed himself a moment of reflection. He thought of all the lives lost, of the cities in ruins, of the long road still ahead. But he also thought of the incredible resilience he had witnessed, the way ordinary people had risen to extraordinary challenges. "We're not beaten yet," he said to no one in particular, watching as the captured Co-technology was loaded onto transport vehicles. "Not by a long shot." Across the globe, similar acts of bravery and cunning were playing out. In the mountains of Tibet, monks used their mastery of meditation to confuse the Co's telepathic communications. In the streets of London, a group of stage magicians employed their skills of misdirection to help resistance fighters evade capture. And in the depths of the Amazon rainforest, indigenous shamans worked with botanists to develop toxins that could penetrate Co-bioarmor. As these small victories began to accumulate, a change came over the human resistance. What had started as a desperate struggle for survival was transforming into something more, a determined campaign to reclaim their world. The Co, for their part, seemed increasingly frustrated by humanity's refusal to submit. Their tactics became more brutal, their destruction more indiscriminate. But with each atrocity, they only strengthened the resolve of those they sought to conquer. In her underground lab, Sarah Chen worked day and night to perfect the EMP device that could neutralize Co-shields. The technology they had captured from the weapons facility was proving invaluable, but integrating it with human systems was a monumental challenge. "It's like trying to build a computer with stone tools," she explained to her team during one grueling session. "But we have one advantage the Co don't: human creativity. We're not bound by their rules or their way of thinking. We can make intuitive leaps they'd never consider." As Sarah and her team inched closer to a breakthrough, word came through the resistance network of a massive coup fleet gathering in orbit. Intelligence suggested they were preparing for a final, overwhelming assault to crush the last pockets of human resistance. In a secure bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the leaders of the global resistance convened an emergency meeting. The atmosphere was tense, the stakes impossibly high. They had one shot at turning the tide, and the window of opportunity was rapidly closing. Jack Harper, freshly returned from his mission and still bearing the wounds of battle, addressed the assembly. "We've bled for every inch of ground we've taken back," he said, his voice carrying the weight of hard-won experience. "But now we have a chance to strike a blow that could change everything. We need to take the fight to them, up there." He pointed skyward, towards the Ko fleet that lurked beyond the atmosphere. There were murmurs of disbelief and concern. The idea of taking on the Ko in space, where they held every advantage, seemed like madness. But as the discussion unfolded and plans were proposed, a daring strategy began to take shape. Sarah Chen, who had been conferencing in from her lab, spoke up. "The EMP device is ready for field testing," she announced. "If we can get it close enough to their command ship, we might be able to disable their entire fleet in one stroke." The plan that emerged was audacious to the point of insanity. A small team would use a captured and modified Ku shuttle to infiltrate the alien fleet. They would need to get close enough to the command ship to deploy the EMP device, all while avoiding detection. It was a mission with little hope of success and even less of survival. As the details were hammered out, Jack Harper stepped forward. "I'll lead the team," he said simply. There were objections. He was too valuable to the resistance, too important to risk on such a desperate gambit. But Jack silenced them with a raised hand. "This is why we fight," he said. "Not just to survive, but for the chance to take back our future. I can't ask others to take risks I'm not willing to face myself." The assembly fell silent, the weight of the moment palpable. Then, one by one, volunteers began to step forward to join Jack's team. Scientists, soldiers, civilians, each willing to sacrifice everything for a chance at victory. As the meeting adjourned and preparations for the mission began in earnest, Jack found a quiet moment to speak with Sarah. They had worked closely over the past months, developing a bond forged in the crucible of war. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with concern and something deeper. Jack nodded, his expression resolute. "Someone has to do it. And if we pull this off, your work could save us all." Sarah hesitated, then pulled Jack into a fierce embrace. "Come back alive," she whispered. "We've got a lot of rebuilding to do when this is over." As they parted, Jack the counterattack. The captured Ku shuttle, hastily modified with human ingenuity and alien technology, rose silently through the atmosphere. Inside, Jack Harper and his team of volunteers sat in tense silence, each lost in their own thoughts as they prepared to face what could be their final mission. The team was a microcosm of humanity's diversity and resilience. Alongside Jack was Maria Gonzalez, a former Cardinal enforcer turned resistance fighter, her face set in grim determination. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a brilliant robotics engineer, nervously fiddled with the EMP device, their one hope of success. Kwame Osai, a Ghanaian special forces operator, ran through pre-mission checks with meticulous precision. Rounding out the team was Zack Ryder, the eccentric billionaire hacker whose skills would be crucial for infiltrating the co-command systems. As they breached the upper atmosphere, the vastness of space opened before them. The Co-fleet hung in low Earth orbit, a constellation of alien geometries that filled the view screen. Jack felt a chill run down his spine at the sight. This was the moment of truth. "Remember," Jack said, breaking the silence, "we only get one shot at this. The EMP has to be placed directly on the hull of the command ship to have any chance of success." Zack's fingers danced across his console, weaving through layers of co-encryption. "I'm piggybacking on their communication signals," he reported. As far as they're concerned, we're just another shuttle returning from patrol. The next few minutes were agonizing as they approached the massive command ship. Every team member held their breath, expecting at any moment to be discovered and obliterated. But Zack's hacking held, and they were able to dock without incident. "All right," Jack said, checking his makeshift spacesuit one last time. "Yuki, Zack, you stay with the shuttle. Keep it ready for a quick exit. The rest of us will plant the EMP and create a diversion if needed." As Jack, Maria, and Quayne made their way through the alien corridors, the true scale of the technological superiority became apparent. The ship seemed to be alive, with surfaces that shifted and changed as they passed. "It's like they've merged organic and inorganic materials." Yuki's voice came through their comms, filled with awe and scientific curiosity. They encountered surprisingly little resistance as they moved deeper into the ship. The it seemed, were so confident in their superiority that they hadn't considered the possibility of a direct infiltration. Finally, they reached the central power core, a pulsing, ethereal construct that defied human understanding. Yuki guided them through the process of placing the EMP device, her voice tense with concentration. "Careful," she warned. "One wrong move and we could set it off prematurely." Just as they finished securing the device, alarms began to blare throughout the ship. They had been discovered. "Run," Jack shouted, and the team sprinted back towards their shuttle, dodging energy blasts from suddenly appearing co-defenders. They were nearly to the airlock when a massive explosion rocked the ship. The EMP had detonated early, triggered by the co's attempts to disarm it. The lights flickered and died, and for a moment, everything was plunged into darkness and silence. When emergency power came back online, the scene had changed dramatically. The co-defenders lay incapacitated, their biomechanical implants overloaded by the pulse. The team seized the opportunity, racing back to their shuttle and disengaging from the now crippled command ship. As they pulled away, they watched in awe as the effects of the EMP cascaded through the co-fleet. Ship after ship went dark, their shields failing and weapons systems offline. "It worked," Yuki breathed, her voice filled with disbelief and joy. It actually worked. Back on Earth, Sarah Chen and the resistance leaders watched with bated breath as the fleet hung motionless in orbit. For a moment, it seemed as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Then, all at once, cheers erupted in command centers and hiding places across the globe. Humanity had just struck its first major blow against the invaders. But Jack knew the fight was far from over. As they re-entered Earth's atmosphere, he opened a channel to Resistance Command. "The fleet is disabled, but not destroyed," he reported. "We need to press our advantage while we have it." The next few days saw a flurry of activity as humanity launched a coordinated counteroffensive. With the orbital superiority neutralized, resistance forces emerged from hiding to attack alien ground positions. The tables had turned, and now it was the who found themselves outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. In the chaos of battle, an unexpected development occurred. A group of soldiers, cut off from their command structure, made contact with a human resistance cell. To everyone's surprise, they asked for asylum. "We were told you were savages," the leader explained, his telepathic translator conveying a mix of fear and awe. "But we've seen your courage, your adaptability. Some of us have begun to question the righteousness of this invasion." This revelation sent shockwaves through both human and ranks. It seemed that not all of the alien invaders were united in their cause. As more co-defectors came forward, a new possibility emerged, not just of defeating the invaders, but of forging an unlikely alliance. Jack Harper, hailed as a hero for his role in the space mission, found himself at the center of these delicate negotiations. "We've spilled each other's blood," he addressed a gathering of human leaders and co-defectors. "But now we have a chance to end this war not through more destruction, but through understanding." As the days passed, more ships arrived in the system, But these were not reinforcements for the invasion. They were dissidents, stirred to action by news of the human resistance and the growing doubts among their own kind. Sarah Chen worked tirelessly with both human and co-scientists, unraveling the mysteries of their advanced technology. "We're on the cusp of breakthroughs that could transform both our societies," she explained to a joint human co-science conference. "Imagine what we could achieve together, rather than in conflict." But even as the prospect of peace grew, hardliners on both sides prepared for a final desperate battle. The Co-High Command, enraged by the defections and humiliated by their defeats, gathered their remaining forces for one last assault on Earth. As reports came in of a massive coup armada approaching from the outer solar system, Jack knew that the true test still lay ahead. Humanity had proven its worth, had shown that it could stand toe-to-toe with a technologically superior foe. But could they now rise above the cycle of violence and find a way to coexist? The fate of two species hung in the balance as Earth braced for the final confrontation. The lessons learned, the bonds forged in battle, and the hopes for a shared future would all be put to the ultimate test. As he looked out over the war-torn landscape, now dotted with the strange architecture of co-dwellings alongside human structures, Jack Harper allowed himself a moment of hope. "We've come this far," he murmured. "We can't stop now." The stage was set for the final act of this cosmic drama, a reckoning that would determine the course of human and co-history for generations to come. The turning point. The tension in the air was palpable as Earth's combined human co-defense force prepared for the arrival of the hardliner co-armada. Massive cannons, a fusion of human and co-technology, were positioned at strategic points around the globe. In orbit, a hastily assembled fleet of retrofitted human spacecraft and repurposed co-vessels stood ready for the coming storm. Jack Harper found himself aboard the flagship of this unlikely alliance, a repurposed co-dreadnought christened Unity. Beside him stood Zorn, the leader of the co-defectors, his iridescent skin shimmering with barely contained anxiety. "They will not listen to reason," Zorn communicated telepathically, his thoughts tinged with sadness. "The High Command sees our defection as the ultimate heresy." Jack nodded grimly. "Then we'll make them listen. Humanity didn't come this far to give up now, and neither did your people." As the enemy fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the comms from her command center on Earth. "We're detecting something strange in their energy signatures," she reported. "It's like they've weaponized the very fabric of space-time." The implications were chilling. If the co-hardliners were willing to risk tearing apart reality itself to achieve victory, the consequences could be catastrophic not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. The battle that ensued was unlike anything in human history. Beams of energy that could vaporize entire cities crisscrossed the void of space. Swarms of automated drones engaged in dizzying dogfights, their movements so fast that human eyes could barely track them. And at the center of it all, the Unity led the charge, with Jack and Zorn coordinating the defense of Earth. But even as the fighting raged, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that there had to be another way. The cost in lives, both human and co, was mounting with each passing minute. There had to be a solution that didn't end in mutual annihilation. It was in the heat of battle, as the Unity shuddered under the impact of a particularly vicious assault, that an epiphany struck Jack. He turned to Zorn, his eyes alight with sudden understanding. "The Co, your people, why did they really come to Earth?" he asked urgently. Zorn's multifaceted eyes blinked in surprise. "To expand our dominion, to prove our superiority." "No," Jack interrupted. "The real reason. What drove your civilization to cross the vast distances of space to find us?" There was a long pause as Zorn considered the question. When he finally answered, his telepathic voice was barely a whisper. "We were dying. Our homeworld, poisoned by millennia of technological excess. We sought new worlds to colonize, to ensure the survival of our species." The revelation hit Jack like a thunderbolt. "Then that's it. That's how we end this war." As the battle raged around them, Jack outlined his audacious plan. It was risky, potentially suicidal, but it offered a chance at something more than just survival. It offered hope. Using the Unity's advanced communication array, boosted by Zack Ryder's hacking skills, they'd broadcast a message across all frequencies, in all languages, to every ship in both fleets. "People of Earth, soldiers of the Co," Jack's voice rang out, steady and clear. "We stand at the brink of mutual destruction, but it doesn't have to end this way. To the Co, we say this: we know why you came to our world. We know the desperation that drove you across the stars. But Earth need not be your salvation at the cost of our extinction. We offer another way." He paused, letting the words sink in before continuing. "Humanity has struggled with its own environmental challenges. We've made mistakes, but we've also learned from them. Together, humans, co-dissidents, and yes, even those who still see us as enemies, we can restore your homeworld. We can share our worlds, our knowledge, our futures. We can be more together than we ever were apart." The fighting didn't stop immediately. There were those on both sides too entrenched in their hatred, too committed to the path of war to consider alternatives. But doubt began to creep in. Ship by ship, soldier by soldier, the battle began to slow. In a bold move that left both allies and enemies stunned, Jack ordered the Unity to lower its shields and power down its weapons. "If we're going to build trust," he said to his incredulous crew, "someone has to take the first step." For several agonizing minutes, the Unity hung vulnerable in space. Zorn stood beside Jack, a silent symbol of the unlikely partnership that had brought them to this moment. They watched, hearts pounding, as the Co-flagship slowly, almost reluctantly, powered down its main weapons array. Over the next few hours, a tenuous ceasefire took hold. Representatives from all factions, human, co-dissident, and co-hardliner, agreed to meet on neutral ground to discuss Jack's proposal. The negotiations were fraught with tension and mistrust. Centuries of co-expansionism and the trauma of the recent invasion weighed heavily on all sides. But as scientists like Sarah Chen presented detailed plans for collaborative environmental restoration projects, and as co-elders spoke of the legends of their poisoned homeworld, a fragile hope began to blossom. It wasn't an immediate or easy resolution. There were setbacks, moments where it seemed that conflict would erupt anew. But with each small step forward, each compromise, and shared success, the foundations of a new interstellar society began to take shape. Months turned into years. Joint human co-expeditions set out for the Co homeworld, armed with cutting-edge technology and the combined knowledge of two civilizations, determined to heal a dying planet. On Earth, the scars of war slowly faded as alien technology helped to restore damaged ecosystems and revolutionize sustainable energy production. Jack Harper, once a simple history teacher thrust into the role of reluctant hero, found himself serving as an ambassador between worlds. As he watched human and co-children playing together in a park built on what was once a battlefield, he reflected on the long, painful journey that had brought them to this point. "We came so close to destroying each other," he mused to Sarah Chen, who had joined him for the park's opening ceremony. "And now look at us." Sarah nodded, her eyes on the horizon where a Co-settlement seamlessly blended with the human city skyline. "It's not perfect," she said. "We still have a long way to go, but we're writing a new history now, together." As the sun set on this new world, casting a warm glow over the mingled silhouettes of human and co-structures, Jack allowed himself to feel something he hadn't fully embraced since the day the invasion began. Hope, not just for survival, but for a future brighter than either species had dared to imagine on their own. The turning point had come not in a moment of ultimate victory or crushing defeat, but in the choice to see beyond conflict, to reach for understanding even in the darkest hour. And in that choice, both humanity and the Co had found not just salvation, but the promise of a shared destiny among the stars. The Reckoning. A decade had passed since the ceasefire that changed the course of two civilizations. The Earth-Co alliance, once thought impossible, had grown into a thriving interstellar community. But as with any great change, there were those who resisted, who clung to old hatreds and fears. It was these forces that now threatened to unravel everything that had been built. Jack Harper, his hair now streaked with gray, stood before the Alliance Council, a body comprised of both human and co-representatives. The chamber, a marvel of joint architecture, hummed with tension. "We've received intelligence," Jack began, his voice grave, "that a faction of co-extremists, allied with human separatists, is planning a series of attacks on key Alliance installations. Their goal is to reignite the war and end our cooperation." Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly. Zorn, now a respected elder among his people, spoke up. "We cannot allow the progress we've made to be undone by those who fear change." "What do you propose, Jack Harper?" Jack took a deep breath. "A joint task force. Our best operatives, both human and co, working together to neutralize this threat before it can gain momentum." The council debated fiercely, but in the end, they agreed. The stakes were too high to ignore the danger. As the meeting adjourned, Sarah Chen approached Jack, concern etched on her face. "You're planning to lead this task force yourself, aren't you?" she asked, though it wasn't really a question. Jack nodded. "I have to, Sarah. This is too important to delegate. Besides," he added with a wry smile, "I'm not as old as I look." The task force assembled quickly, an elite group of warriors and specialists from both species. Among them was Maria Gonzalez, the former cartel enforcer who had fought alongside Jack in the war, and Clarath, a young co-prodigy in quantum communications. Their first mission took them to the far reaches of the solar system, to a hidden base on one of Neptune's moons. As their ship approached, cloaked by co-stealth technology, Jack briefed the team. "Remember," he said, looking each member in the eye, "our goal is to capture, not kill. These aren't just criminals. They're the last vestiges of a mindset we're trying to change. How we handle this will set the tone for the future of our alliance." The assault on the base was swift and precise. Human ingenuity combined with co-technology allowed them to bypass defenses that would have been impenetrable to either species alone. But as they pushed deeper into the facility, they encountered fiercer resistance. In a chaotic firefight, Jack found himself face to face with the leader of the human separatists, a man he recognized from his past. "Colonel Briggs," Jack gasped, lowering his weapon slightly in shock. The grizzled man sneered. "Harper, I should have known they'd send their pet hero to do their dirty work. Can't you see what's happening? We're losing our identity, our very humanity." Jack shook his head. "No, Colonel. We're expanding what it means to be human. We're growing, evolving. This is the future we fought for. A future where we're no better than slaves to alien overlords." Briggs spat. "Look around you," Jack urged. "Do you see slaves? Or do you see partners, equals, working together for something greater than either of us could achieve alone?" For a moment, doubt flickered in Briggs' eyes. But then his face hardened, and he raised his weapon. "It's too late for me, Harper. I've come too far to turn back now." What happened next was a blur of motion. Briggs fired, but Clarath, using the Co's superior reflexes, pushed Jack aside. The shot went wide, and before Briggs could fire again, he was subdued by Maria and two co-operatives. As the dust settled, and the last pockets of resistance were quelled, Jack stood amidst the aftermath, a mix of emotions swirling within him. They had prevented a catastrophe, but the fact that such deep-seated resentments still existed was a stark reminder of how fragile their peace truly was. Back on Earth, as the prisoners were processed and the true scope of the conspiracy was revealed, Jack found himself standing before a joint human co-memorial. The monument, a twisting spire of metal and light, commemorated all those lost in the war and in the difficult years of rebuilding that followed. Sarah Chen joined him, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You're thinking about Briggs, aren't you?" she asked softly. Jack nodded. "I can't help but wonder, how many more are out there like him? On both sides. How do we reach them?" Sarah was quiet for a moment, considering. "Maybe we can't reach them all," she said finally. "But we can create a world, a society where their fears have no place to take root. It's not about erasing the past, Jack. It's about building a future so bright that the shadows of the past can't darken it." As they stood there, a group of children, human and co, ran past, laughing and playing. One of the co-children stumbled, and without hesitation, a human girl helped them up. The simple act of kindness, so natural and unforced, brought a smile to Jack's face. "You're right," he said, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "This is what we're fighting for. Not just coexistence, but true unity. A future where the lines between us blur not because we've lost who we are, but because we've discovered how much more we can be together." The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the memorial and the bustling city beyond. In the fading light, the spire seemed to pulse with an inner radiance, a beacon of hope for the future. Jack straightened, his resolve strengthened. "There's still so much work to do," he said. Sarah nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "Then let's get to it. Together." As they walked away from the memorial, towards the heart of the city where humans and co worked and lived side by side, Jack felt a profound sense of optimism. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be more challenges, more conflicts to resolve. But he knew now, with unshakable certainty, that they were on the right path. The reckoning they had faced was not an ending, but a new beginning. It was a testament to the resilience of both species, to their capacity for growth and change. In coming together, in choosing understanding over fear, cooperation over conflict, they had not just saved themselves. They had opened the door to a future of limitless possibility. As the first stars began to twinkle in the twilight sky, Jack Harper, once a reluctant hero, now a bridge between worlds, looked up and smiled. The universe, vast and mysterious, beckoned. And this time, humanity would not face its wonders and challenges alone. Together with the Co, they would forge a destiny among the stars, writing a new chapter in the cosmic story of life, unity, and hope. The end of one tale, and the beginning of countless others.